Welcome to Inform TV. I'm Alan Repke, Alexandria, Minnesota. Today we're going to take and give you some insight on government spending. And the best example I've always said for the common person to understand how our present situation has devolved into the point where spending is out of control. And to see a common example that we can all relate to, and that happens to be the Farm Bill. And I bring up the Farm Bill in a number of ways because the Senate now has at least passed out of committee their version of the Farm Bill. And so we're going to be taking a look at that in some upcoming programs. Yet at the same time, I want to talk about the fact that I want to give you an assignment that I think, whether you're Democrat or Republican, as far as understanding the crash in 2008, you need to look at money, power, and Wall Street. It's a frontline report on public TV, or you can go to their website or just Google money, power, and Wall Street. I've just looked at some clips of it, but it is incredibly disturbing to see how the lack of leadership and the bully pulpit of some of these investors who made just disastrous decisions, yet we had no one there that was running it. Yet you Republicans got to, when you look at this, you've got to give President Obama, at the time he was a young senator, a lot of credit when you look at some of these things. Now obviously I don't think he should have listened to Paulson, and I firmly believe he should be dumping Biden and bringing a vice president in that is economics, and yet of course is capable of being the President of the United States. So I encourage you to look at that. And yet when we look at this, I want you to also look at the thought process of how we've devolved to this despicable place where we're spending 1.2 to 1.3 trillion more on an annual basis than we're taking in. And the incredible cliff we're coming to that we're also soon going to have a program on at the end of the year. And we're going to be looking at some of the budget examples or lack thereof of both the Republican side and the Democratic side. Yet I've always contend we have come to this crash situation because of Reagan's big-time mistake in the crash of '87. And when the same thing basically happened as that happened in the fall of 2008, in October I believe it was of '87, when we had the stock market crash, and these same speculators, stock people drug Reagan in to bail their little rears out. And unfortunately at that point in time we weren't in the speculative bubble by any manner, shape, or form. But Reagan at that point in time should have simply said to them, when they drug him into office with members of Congress and members of the banking community and the stock market and the futures trading forum, he simply should have said, "Gentlemen, how do you want your balls served? Cream sauce or gravy?" Because at that point in time we could have addressed the issue. And in capitalism, people, the people that make mistakes must pay dearly. And after they pay dearly, then you address the issues. And the facts are, you'll find you don't need to address very much. In fact, we're in a point in time right now where we, as you watch this program, Money, Power, and Wall Street, are we fascist or are we corporate socialist? And at the same time, I think we have to ask ourselves, and we should be asking Education Minnesota, the University of Minnesota, the state college system, the trade schools, the junior colleges, when are you people going to start teaching the fact that for the last couple decades we have not been a capitalist democracy? and this phony economics that have been going on of no competition, or allowing the billionaires, the millionaires to just buy up their competition is outrageous. And for your local school board or yourself to sit there and say, this is a capitalistic system? No way. What happened in 2008 wasn't about capitalism, it was about power. And now we're in a democracy where we have made our farmers, our businesses, our corporations massively wealthy. And yet our people are losing their homes, wondering if they're going to have a job, how are they going to retire, where is their health care coming from, and are these goods and services going to be affordable? And so that's my point of throwing it to you people to put education on the spot, because what is going on is not capitalism. And at the same point in time, when we look at these issues, the best way to look at these kind of issues is to look at farm policy. Now you say, why should we listen to this guy on farm policy? First of all, I used to farm 6,000 acres, and I've told you before here, you're living under sugar policy that I sold to Tip O'Neill and with the help of Chuck Canton, where the direct payments show on the baselines as they're putting info together for the next farm bill, 0, 0, 0, 0 for decades. So those few of us in the sugar industry that really understood what we showed the public, we showed Congress how you can have farm policy without direct payments. And it's a situation where we have to look at what has worked and not worked. And what we're doing right now has not been working. Yet, when we look at the news today, I believe it's the 9th of April that I'm recording this, and Luger was just defeated. Hooray! I don't think Indiana could send the message a shot across the bow louder than clearing that. And Luger, the example I'll give you, he was chairman, or one of the big muckety-mucks, at least in the start of Freedom to Farm, where they budgeted $49 billion over 7 years, and I believe it was after 5 years of it, they had spent $112 billion. And yet Republicans and the media types tend to call Luger a conservative. Good riddance. And what has happened in Europe this week with the ouster of the French president and continued disarray here with little Greece and Ireland and Spain and all them, I think it's a real wake-up call to both the Republicans and Democrats. You guys better get your act together, or you're going out on a street like happened in Europe, that happened in Indiana, and should happen nationwide to these old, outdated people that have come in here. You know, I've given you the example here, Klobuchar. Are you better now than you were in 2006 when she came into office? She's had 6 years to get her act together, and she's watching massive spending. She's not addressing the issues. And when I talk about the issues, the best point to talk about the issues has always been farm policy, because farm policy does a great job of showing you pretty simple numbers. Even though we're still talking billions, we're at least not talking trillions. And the best part, in fact, I called in the last 2 days of people around the state why you should be listening to me. I called in to question our Secretary of Agriculture when he had a news conference on water quality. I said, what are you doing about CRP? We've got a lot of you hunters, fishermen out there. Water quality, I told the Secretary plain that CRP is the superstar of water quality and less erosion. Yet Congress in this new farm bill want to drop it to 25 million acres from about 32 million acres. That's something that both our farmers and our sportsmen should be looking at very hard. And also on a worldwide basis to sustain good crop prices when this world wheat supply is coming out. We're in a position, people, right now where the price of corn could go down dramatically because of two things. We're planting a lot of acres and the world wheat supply is coming back. Where suddenly our cattle feeders, rather than at these big feedlots dumping one payloader full of corn in the mixing wagon, they'll instead of two payloader dumps full of corn in a ration, they're going to be dumping one bucket full of corn and one bucket full of wheat into that ration. And at the same point in time, with this early planting, if we don't get a frost, we continue to get moisture, we have potential to raise a terrific corn crop. And our fuel supply needs are dropping down. And so farmers need to be alert to the fact that prices could go dramatically lower by fall. I'm not predicting that, but it's a possibility. Yet at the same time, when we look at farm policy that we're talking about here today, crop insurance, and that's why I want to talk about farm policy here today. The last 2 years, this year and last year, under this revenue program insurance that Congress wants to save for their farm buddies, you have to realize last year and this year, especially this year, if we have a big corn crop, a big soybean crop, a big wheat crop, we could find ourselves in where the price from the futures price from February till harvest could drop in half. In other words, the farm price of corn, for example, would go from $6 down to $3. Who would get hurt? Not the farmer that is doing a sound marketing program or has government revenue insurance. We're in a situation, people, this year, and we were there last year, but it didn't happen last year, where the price of the major commodities could drop in half and yet have a big crop, and the taxpayer cost could be from $35 to $40 billion on this year's crop. And that's why I'm telling you farm policy is very important, and why I want to bring some examples out to you, my audience. Now, the best way to look at this is my old buddy Ralph Chaitz. I call him Chaitz, but he's the one that put together the numbers when we passed the 2008 Farm Bill in the summer of 2008. Now this report, I think there was another updated one, but I couldn't find it online or in my computer. But it shows the numbers they used to put the Farm Bill together, and it was passed in May and June of 2008. In other words, fiscal 8 was just about up, was up by the end of September. And we want to look at some of the numbers that our people were looking at that point in time, and why, once again, I called into a news conference today about food stamps and spending. Now, in Ralph's report here, we'll see that the cost of the 2000 Farm Bill, he was looking at that, as you can see over my shoulder here, of what we spent. In food stamps, in fiscal 2002, now remember, the government years runs from October 1st to the end of September the following year. The grand total for food stamps was $22 billion. This year, people, we're going to spend $77 billion. In fiscal 2008, we spent $76 billion. Yet in 2008, the summer of 2008, which wasn't very long ago, our congressmen and senators in this area, from my North Dakota audience to my Minnesota audience, were saying the Farm Bill is budgeted. We have offset offsets. We got that from Pelosi, we got that from Reid, we got that from Colin Peterson, we got it from Harkland, and we got it from a busload of Republicans as well. That this farm bill is budgeted, it's got offsets. We're going to show you today how incredibly false that was and how the Congressional Budget Office numbers were meaningless, worthless. And we need to make sure that in the 2012 Farm Bill that these numbers are updated and updated now, and that's your other assignment, to see that this Ralph Chait numbers at the Congressional Research are brought up to the minute as far as the 2008 Farm Bill, and add a column for total cost and total nutrition costs. Because we're going to look at some numbers here quickly now, people. $22 billion in fiscal 2002. By fiscal 2008, we were spending $35 billion. Yet old Ralph shows us some interesting numbers from the estimate of the new Farm Bill, which is the Farm Bill we're still under here. And he shows some incredible numbers. I'll get them in the middle so you should be able to see them. Food stamps. In 2008, we were supposed to spend $36 billion in fiscal. We spent 38. Then in we were supposed to average $37.2 billion, but here's the numbers we spent. In 38, as I said, in 2008, we spent $38 billion. In 2009, it jumped to $53 billion. In 2010, it jumped to $68 billion. And in 2011, jumped to 76, and it's already on track to be at least 76 billion for this year. In other words, as we look at the numbers here, Congress, both the Republicans and Democrats, were telling the taxpayer, this is a budgeted deal, we've got offsets, we've made adjustments. They were going to spend $186 billion for food stamps. And what did they spend? They have spent $312 billion. Just think of that. And that is the major cost of the Farm Bill. And yet, when we look at some of the other items, we need the Farm Commodity Program costs bought up to date. We need the conservation costs, which is by far the cheapest way to manage farm policy, CRP, for you hunters and you people concerned about water quality. Exports can take care of themselves. Farm supports, food stamps, grand total. Like I said, Ralph needs to add a couple more columns because total nutrition, people, this year and last year is going to cost the taxpayer over $100 billion. There's a lot more than just food stamps in this food assistance, and that needs to be brought out. Yeah, now of course, as a Christian, I'm not against feeding our hungry in any manner, shape, or form. But the reality is, I was unemployed here for about 9 months back in this heyday of 2009, and I was on unemployment, but I didn't need food stamps to take care of. I will venture to you, and that's why we need to put pressure on this Farm Bill debate, that we're in a situation here, people, where food stamps has been coming away to subsidize mortgages that should never been written, and we're soon going to do a program to give you some incredible insight on the mortgage situation and who is really to blame. Yeah, the bankers are to blame, but I want to put the real estate industry on the carpet, and you'll find the numbers I'm talking blow you away to see some of the con jobs these real estate agents put on your neighbor, in your church, in your community, in your state, in your nation. It's despicable. They represented them as sellers, as agents, if you wanted to buy a house, as developers. That whole real estate can of worms is more important to open it than just the bankers. And we're going to show you why here at Inform TV if you start becoming a regular person on here. Yet at the same time, as we look at Ralph's numbers here, we have some real challenges, people, that what is going to happen with this new farm bill. Now, obviously, crop insurance is one of the other items that has mind-boggling cost. Yet the actuarial numbers, if you look back at the last 20 years, there's really no reason for government to be in there. I used to think we had to have government in there. But if we do a little tweaking, either the private sector can totally take it over if they don't pay their local agents that you have in your community and I have here an arm and a leg, if they don't pay those 15 or 16 insurance companies massive feedback on this thing where they don't put in a true insurance reserve but pay it out to their stockholders or the managers that run these so-called crop insurance companies. The reality, people, government itself can actually run crop insurance much cheaper and actually can be a profit center. So when we talk here on Informed TV, there's a lot of things that this old capitalistic view of business can do it cheaper than government. Just not true today with computers and a massive amount of educated people to do the simple things of insurance. Insurance is not a rocket science business. Old Warren Buffett has got filthy rich on it, but the reality is the taxpayer, when it comes to the big hurricane in the Gulf, did the insurance companies pay through the nose or go broke on the situation? No. Uncle Sam, you the taxpayer, paid through the nose because the fine print these private insurance companies have put in weren't really insuring people. So the taxpayer got stuck. If we're going to get stuck on all these disasters, people, as far as taxpayers, we can just well write the insurance ourselves and cut the budget with that. Because people need to be taken care of. We don't need to make multi-millionaires and billionaires on every corner like we're doing right now. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention when we look at this whole animal and the farm policy, food stamps, and issues that are out of control is accounting. Where is accounting? The biggest challenge that we should be talking about in improving government, we have to get FASB rules, these GASB rules, the Government Accounting Standard Board should be abolished. We have true hardcore numbers, and that we make sure our government agencies get minute by minute accountability, or at least mid-month, of what goes on with government spending. And I'll give you another example on what the food stamp situation shows us. If you go to fns.usda, you can see these numbers for yourself. But I'll try to post some of this on my website, Ralph's Report and that type of thing, so you can throw it in the face of your congressman and senator and say, we want some new updated numbers from Ralph. And here we show the cost of, it shows how many households are on food stamps, our SNAP, food assistance. We're looking at 21 million households. We're talking 46 million people that are on food stamps. And yet, from a standpoint of cost, they're 2 months behind in showing the actual numbers. Now, they're letting the states drag their feet and getting their reports together like we're not in the computer age. What do we hear on the mainstream news now? They're getting, rather than a stamp book, they can have a card that they can swish. Hubbard Broadcasting was doing a bunch of stuff on this and I don't agree with some of the stuff they were reporting as a real true solution. But we're also going to follow some items up on that. But here we are in mid-May 2012, yet your government is only reporting what we've spent on food stamps, supplemental nutrition assistance, as of February. How can that be, people? Isn't Colin Peterson supposed to be a CPA? Been there for 20-some years? Isn't this Republican, I don't want to get confused on my districts, is it the 4th district? Anyway, the one right on the west side, the Edina group of people there, I think it goes out to Waconia, that area. Isn't that guy supposed to be an accountant or a numbers man? Why aren't both our Republican Party and our Democratic Party screaming loud and near, or why aren't you screaming at these state conventions or when you get together with a political person? When are you going to get those accounting numbers up to snuff? These bureaucrats that are getting paid dearly, we certainly have the accounting capabilities, all the money we're sending, to get, after the month ends, no more than a 15-day wait of what they shoved out the door. And that should be a major item that we're talking about this fall and into this summer when we're talking with these politicians. We have to be in a position to put pressure on people. Now, the other thing I want to talk about a little bit today, I had the privilege of Jim Mulder here. We talked about county government, and he talked about we can't continue. Here's my Douglas County meeting, the packet of papers that I went to this week, and I hope to do a program on that on a broad basis as well. And I hope to have a lady locally on that talks about what's happening in the mental health field with people that need group homes or special help and can no longer stay with their family, and what's involved there. And yet at the same time, it's time in this election cycle. I will soon have my own channel up on Selective TV here in a tower in Alexandria, and I think I'll soon have my own channel on some of the small cable outlets, and I think I'll be able to live stream some of the program we're having on there. That's not just me, people. I want other people of substance to be involved in Informed TV. And the challenge I'm putting to you is, as this legislative session comes to an end, this Viking Stadium debacle or whatever is going to happen there, I want to use Informed TV as a half-hour forum for the people involved in the Vikings debate, the people involved in this this session. I've invited the president of the League of Cities, who happens to be Mayor Ness here in Alexandria. And if you know the mayor in Rochester or Wilmer or Brainerd listening to this program, tell your mayor, get Dan Ness to come on and talk about what the League of Cities has been doing for the last year, or why we even need that. And also maybe an opportunity. And plus, the candidates that want to run for office, or just ending a session, or especially the people that just left government as this session ends. And why did these people leave government? I want you to contact them for me and tell them, can you come on and do a little discussion on Informed TV with old Repke of why you left? Do you agree with Repke when he talks about we should drop the size of the Minnesota legislature to 67 people rather than 201 when we have total Republicans controlling the legislature anyway? Are any of us happy with the shutdown last year with 2 bodies? Are we happy with our governor? I don't think anybody's happy with our present situation or our Congress, so shouldn't we be modernizing them? Informed TV is that platform for you people in the community to get a look at what's happening with food stamps, what's happening with foreign policy, what's happening with the leaders or the people that we should have as leaders. I'm a hardcore independent. The Republicans despise me, the Tea Party despises me, Occupy, the Democrats despise me. Why? Because I want to look under the rocks, and that's why I have a tough time finding advertising as well. So get that done for me as well. It takes some money to do this, and we're going to have the information you as good citizens are looking for at Informed TV. but get the word out. Watch Inform TV. Go to informtv.com. And thanks for listening to Inform TV. I'm Alan Repke, Alexandria, Minnesota.